So trade deadline season's almost here, less than a week away, actually half a week away by the time this is uploaded. It's going to be a fun trade deadline, and the Yankees have some moves that they're probably going to make. They could be looking for an outfielder, starting pitching, and maybe even relievers. Will they cover all three of those holes? Will they go out and get guys for all three of them spots? Well, we're going to cover the guys who we think the Yankees might be able to get. My name is Derek. I'm here with John and Barnes, and you're watching Bleacher Brawls. So let's get straight into this. Who could the Yankees trade for at the trade deadline? Obviously, the options are plentiful for the Yankees. It seems like it's going to be a very exciting trade deadline. We're not going to cover the obvious Juan Soto move. We already did a video on Juan Soto. We're not going to cover it. But we are going to start off with starting pitching options for the Yankees. It seems like they might be able to use a starter, and they have been rumored to be able to go after a starter. So looks like the three starters in question are Louise Castillo, Frankie Montas, and Tyler Mahle. We're going to start off with Castillo. He has a 2.77 ERA in 13 starts. Go to John first. Thoughts on Louise Castillo, and what would it mean for the Yankees to get him?
Louise Casteel is priority number one, in my opinion. The Yankees need a starting pitcher. Go get the top end, best starting pitcher available. Not only is Louise Castillo the best pitcher available, a couple of weeks ago, he came into Yankee Stadium and pitched really, really well. And we all know how important that is for somebody to come in and make the adjustment to Yankee Stadium. Well, Castillo has shown that he was not intimidated by Yankee Stadium, had an excellent presence on the mound that day. His body language, he was not intimidated at all. He was not concerned about the short right field porch. He was there and he was ready to pitch, and he lived up to the moment. I felt like he could handle the electricity of being in Yankee Stadium. This is the guy I want. Louise Castillo. I know everybody else would be secondary. Like, this is the guy the Yankees need to go out and get at all costs.
Yeah, and it seems like the Yankees are going to be making a push for Castillo. And we'll move on to the guys in just half a second. All three of these guys, Castillo, Mahle, and Montas, they all have this year as well as next year on the books, which is big value for the Yankees or whoever trades for them to get. Barnes, your thoughts on Castillo? How would you what would you expect from Luis Castillo if he comes to the Yankees?
Luis Castillo would immediately come in and be that second guy in the rotation, behind Garrett Cole, especially after what happened to Severino. Castillo's the type of guy who's going to go deep into a game, 6 2/3, 7 innings, which is what you need, especially when you're going to make a playoff run. Help out those relievers in the bullpen who might need to show up at any notice. So Castillo throws hard. He deals well. John covered it. He's used to the limelight. He can be in the limelight. I think it helps that he came from Cincinnati where no one's coming at games. So he's like, nah, nothing's really going to get to me because, oh, wait, I'm in front of thousands of people. Didn't get to him when he crushed the Yankees in that outing. So I think Luis Castillo, like John said, is number one. He's what we need. It's going to help our pitching rotation so much in all facets.
Yeah, I mean, whoever gets him, whether it's the Yankees or someone else, they're getting a very good front of the rotation guy. Maybe not an ace, but he's very close to it. Definitely a very good number 2 starter. If you don't get Castillo, the next Red Sox option on the market is Frankie Montas, a Red Sox fan, a former Red Sox prospect. Pretty sure he was traded away in the Jake Peavy trade. So for your Red Sox fans that might be watching this, there's some knowledge for you if you didn't know that. I'll go to Barnes first on Frankie Montas, a 3.16 ERA this year in 18 starts. He's been very good for the A's. Thoughts on Montas?
I really like Montas. I think he's got great stuff. He pitches hard and he attacks the zone. I think you'll look at his numbers and they're not particularly amazing this year, but he's playing on the Oakland A's, who are, bottom of the barrel team. Every time he goes out, he gives you his best outing. I would say if you miss out on Castillo, hopefully you don't. Like, if he goes to the Twins, he's rumored to go there. If you can get Montas, I think he's going to really help button it up. And then even for next year, he comes in, obviously you get Cole back, you get Severino, then you have Montas, Nestor, and then Montgomery becomes your 5th guy. I think he definitely is a tier below Castillo, but he's still really, really good. You should totally check out his numbers.
Yeah, Montas, very good year. Like I said, 3.16 ERA, that ranks 28th among qualified starters. If you're going based off, 30 teams, he's, one, if you separated one by team, he would be a number 1 for someone. For the Yankees, 2 or 3, depending on the night. I think he still would be a very solid 2. Obviously, Castillo's a little bit better than him, but it's still a very solid option. John, thoughts on Frankie Montas?
You guys both nailed it. He would be a good option, but not the best option. I'd be severely disappointed if Louise Castillo went to another team, especially a team in the American League, and the Yankees ended up with Montas. I'm not saying that Montas has the ability to be a postseason hero. I don't know, but I would be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible consolation prize. I do want to go back to Castillo for half a second. It looks like the Yankees and Twins are the 2 interested in him. When it comes to Montas right now, it looks like maybe the Dodgers and the Cardinals. But there's no reason the Yankees were to miss out on Castillo. They couldn't start sniffing around Montas on deadline day. But next up is a pretty darn good consolation prize. If you miss on Castillo and you miss on Montas, the third option right there is Tyler Mahle. This year's having a worse year than he did last year. 4.48 ERA in 18 starts. Last year in 33 starts, he had a 3.75 ERA. So it's not an amazing year from Mahle this year. But the big thing, a 3.79 FIP this year, which is just around where he was last year. Peripherals do look better than the actual expected, what his actual numbers are. I'll go to John first on this one. Thoughts on Tyler Mahle if you miss on Castillo and Montas?
He's an all right pitcher, but he's not going to be a difference maker, which is what the Yankees need. The Yankees don't need another Jordan Montgomery level pitcher. They need a good pitcher, or a great pitcher. And I just don't see it. I think it'd just be a swing and a miss if that's who they ended up with.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if the Yankees do feel that they just need a starter in the rotation, if they need an extra body to start and they still want someone who's a solid performer, Tyler Mahle is not a bad option. You could definitely do heck of a lot worse, right? Especially till you get the extra year of control. So you would still have him for 2023. It's not a bad option. Obviously, it's the worst out of the 3 we are presenting. Barnes, thoughts on Mahle?
He's one of those hard throwing pitchers. He doesn't have necessarily the top end velocity that you'll look at, but if you look at his, what he throws a 4-seamer, a splitter, a slider, and a cutter. So he's going after these batters. He's definitely more aggressive than any other. He's not one of those crafty guys who I'll try to get a swing and a miss. No, he's going to attack you. I don't think he's going to be a difference maker. And if the Yankees really do feel like they need to add someone in the rotation, it's definitely not the best option, but it's not a bad option either.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad option. Like you said, it's not the best option, but it's definitely not a bad option. Next up, we're going to move on to the outfielders. I do want to mention Bryan Reynolds. He's, kind of the pipe dream behind Juan Soto. A lot of control years left as well. I don't think the Padres deal him. I think all of us can kind of agree that, you'd love to get him, but most likely not going to happen. So we're going to focus on 2 guys here, Andrew Benintendi, former Red Sox, and Ian Happ, who is on the Cubs. I'll go to John first. Andrew Benintendi. I love him, and I don't want to see him go to the Yankees. But if the Yankees do get him, how are you feeling about it?
This is complicated. It's a very complicated situation. I love to hate Andrew Benintendi. I don't really know how to explain it. During that kind of run that he was on the Red Sox, I despised him. I think that had a lot to do with Luke and Luke's love affair with him, which only made it worse. I can't stand the guy, and I would hate to see him on the Yankees. That all being said, he's actually what the Yankees need. He's a contact hitter, playoff experience. Not the best outfielder ever, but he's solid. You wouldn't necessarily be worried with him out there patrolling in left field. I mean, I could live with it if the Yankees end up winning with him, but if he came to the Yankees and they didn't win, it would just make me hate him so much more, which I didn't know if it was possible, but I really, really hate the guy. And again, you could thank Luke for that one. We'll get into that more in depth another time, though.
Yeah, obviously, Benintendi is really what the Yankees need. A nice contact hitter. There's not a lot of them around the league, especially that'll be available. He's maybe not the, high-end contact hitter with a very high on base. He's not necessarily that, but he's about as close as you're going to be able to get to that without having to give up a king's ransom or try and get him away from another contending team. So you really your best option if you're going for a contact hitter. Barnes, thoughts on Benintendi?
Once again, I totally get you, John. I understand why you were probably a little bit baffled. You're like, how do I feel about this guy? if we look at him as a baseball player, he's what the Yankees need. He's not a liability defensively, so he's solid out there. He reminds me of a guy like DJ LeMahieu who can get on base, whether it be a walk, slapping a single, getting a hard double. And it feels like that's what we need to kind of help break up, especially those Houston Astros, breaking up their pitching. Like once they're going, you need someone to try and break it up. And I think Benintendi's that guy. He also runs pretty well on the bases. So heck, I'll take him.
He was beating Houston in the playoffs before too, right? Y'all in 2018, you had to go through Houston, right?
Yep. Had to go through Houston in 2018.
Can I ask a question, Derrik? I have to ask you about this.
Yeah.
Just going back to Luke's love affair with Andrew Benintendi. Did all Red Sox fans think he had like some super amazing jack physique, or is that just Luke? Like, was Benny Biceps a real nickname? Or
it kind of was a nickname. He was kind of like the Flow Bros with Brock Holt. And obviously all Red Sox fans kind of really like Brock Holt, and they like Benintendi as well. I like Benintendi. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't like he's my favorite player. Still liked him. I like his replacement more than Alex Verdugo. We can get into that another day. But yeah, he's obviously a very good player. The Yankees, if they do get him, breaks my heart a little bit. But I understand business is business. Stuff happens. And it's not in the Red Sox control on where he goes anymore. So it's not like the Red Sox can force him to not go to the Yankees. Last up here in the outfield section, we only get two. Ian Happ. I'm going to go to Barnes first on Ian Happ. Thoughts on Happ?
I actually really like Ian Happ and what he offers to a ball club. He obviously offers some experience, and whether it be in or out of a clubhouse. Really bright guy. He's also versatile. He can play the outfield. He can also play infield. He can play second base if we in a pinch if we need it. Just like how Marwin Gonzalez can slide out into the outfield, even though he's more of an infielder by trade. Happ's the opposite. So I think he offers that little bit of versatility. I don't think he's as good as Benintendi in terms of hitting. But I think they're apples and oranges. It's just, what do you prefer?
Yeah, obviously, you're still getting a player to Ian Happ, and I'm not sure. Someone might have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure Happ isn't a free agent until after next season. I'm pretty sure he has 2 years of control. So he would get an extra year.
I got it right here. Signed through 2022, earliest arbitration eligible 2023, earliest free agent 2024.
All right, so he has 2 years of control, so he'd also be getting an extra year of control on Ian Happ. So that also kind of gives a little bit more added value to whoever gets him. If it is the Yankees, gives them some added value. John, thoughts on Ian Happ?
Well, like Barnes said, I like his versatility. I think that's something the Yankees really seem to be going with this season, is guys that can play multiple positions. You can switch guys around. I like that part of his game. I've heard that he's a good clubhouse guy, which is a good thing. He doesn't have any postseason experience, or if he does, it's little, right? Because he didn't come up with the Cubs until 2017. So that would have been after their World Series. Okay, so he's played in a couple postseason games, but didn't make that big, deep postseason run with the Cubs in 2016. He's a decent player, like we were saying. He'd be really versatile, so I like that part of his game. But he's not like a great hitter, and you would have a couple of years of control with him, or you'd be able to keep him for a couple more years. But is he a guy? Let's say you do win the World Series this year, or I don't know. Is he a guy you really want to keep around, or is he a guy you're just going to look to flip if you win the World Series?
I think you keep him just because it never hurts to have too many good players, especially if they're good locker room guys. And you do want to go Ian Happ. He former teammate with Anthony Rizzo in Chicago. So there also is that there as well. If the Yankees have any questions on his personality or anything, they can just ask Anthony Rizzo. So if they're trading for Happ, they know they're not going to get any clubhouse problems. I doubt they would with Benintendi either. But you wouldn't get him with Happ because they can just ask Rizzo any questions that they need to about him in the clubhouse.
I think you'd have to worry about Luke breaking into the Yankees clubhouse to feel Andrew Benintendi's biceps. That's the locker room issue I see coming.
Oh Lord! All right. Before I wrap this up, we do want to cover some relievers. We're gonna go through them a little quickly here. I do want to just say David Bednar could be an option, but seems unlikely he'll be dealt. Similar to Brian Reynolds, kind of the pipe dream option. A lot of years in control. 4 years after this year, but it seems unlikely. especially from the Yankees perspective. I think they kind of just go for a rental. Look like your options are David Robertson, Michael Fulmer, Andrew Chafin, and Daniel Bard. I do want to cover Daniel Bard really quick because I really like Daniel Bard, former Red Sox, goes to the Yankees. I don't want to see it happen. I want to see a Red Sox reunion, just so my heart can kind of settle after they tried making him a starter, and that just totally flopped because, you know, the Red Sox will do stuff like that once every like 4 or 5 years, and it kills you a little bit inside. Barnes, though, take whoever you want. Robertson, Fulmer, Chafin. Who do you want to go on first?
I'll take David Robertson. He was actually my favorite Yankee when he was on the Yankees. And I know that's really weird to say, oh, my favorite Yankee was a relief pitcher. Loved the guy. He always just kind of came in, stepped up, like no matter the scenario, just came in and just did his job. You know, especially with losing Michael King. So you need a guy that you can really trust. David Robertson's that guy. You know, he's nothing flashy. His like best years are behind him. But, you know, if you look at his stats this year, he's got a 1.83 ERA in 35 games with 39 innings pitched. Like, what more can you ask from this guy? He's experienced. He knows what it's like to be in a playoff run. And I think that's what the Yankees might be looking for, really.
Yeah, obviously a very good option. John, I will let you go. You can choose between Michael Fulmer and Andrew Chafin. Who are you going to take?
Oh, geez, that's funny because I would have took Daniel Bard first.
If you want to take Bard, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I definitely would take Daniel Bard. I think he was really good with the Red Sox. He kind of shut down the Yankees. He pitched really well against the Yankees. I hated seeing him take the mound, so that's kind of makes me want him. You know, and why not go back to the B situation? You know, whenever the Yankees got anybody that used to be a Red Sox that had a B in there, started with their first or last name, it seemed to kill the Red Sox down the road. So maybe that's all the reason. Just go to Benintendi and Bard. Maybe let's just play those odds. One thing I want to mention about Robertson, because I love, like Barnes was saying, I really like David Robertson. I thought he was a really good pitcher. He'd worry me when he took the mound, and he'd load the bases every save opportunity. He wouldn't give up any runs, but he'd like strike out, walk, strike out, walk, strike out. And like it worked for him. That was great. But he always made me worry. One thing I just want to point out about Robertson, I remember this on his way out, and I didn't get a lot of press, and I'm kind of glad it didn't because I like the guy. But New York Post, I searched for this because I remember reading it January 3rd, 2019. After Robertson left the Yankees for the Phillies, he mentioned that the reason the Yankees didn't want him back was because he kind of led the group when they were voting for playoff shares. He led a group that voted out for a bunch of coaches and staff to get either half a share or no share at all. And apparently that rubbed the Yankees the wrong way. So that's why I think Robertson might not be coming back to the Yankees. I think the organization didn't really like him for that, according to this New York Post article. Which is a shame because I really did like the guy. So with that all in mind, I think there's a better chance the Yankees go for Bard than Robertson, but I'd be happy with either of them.
I do want to go up to our next option now. I think actually the guy I think actually kind of makes the most sense for the Yankees is Andrew Chafin, in the sense of Yankees kind of need a lefty in the back end of that bullpen. Chapman hasn't been that lefty in the back end of the bullpen that the Yankees probably want him to be. Obviously, you know, you lose Michael King, that's a big loss. And obviously you still could replace him with someone else in this list. But Yankees, you go out and get a lefty. Now you're not having to use Chapman in the 7th or 8th inning because there's lefties up or whatever reason you end up trying to use them there. No, just go to Andrew Chafin. And I think that would make a lot of sense for the Yankees. And who knows what happens with Chapman. How much will the Yankees even use him down the stretch unless it's like a blowout? Who knows? Maybe they're still going to try and work him in like the Red Sox did with Matt Barnes. And we've all seen how that's worked for my Red Sox. Not good at all. So as a Red Sox fan, please use Chapman as much as you want. I'm guessing you guys obviously don't want Chapman to see the field. So if you get Andrew Chafin, it puts a block a little bit in Chapman being used in late innings. Last up, anyone want to take Michael Fulmer?
I'll take Michael Fulmer. Michael Fulmer, I think when we were talking through these relievers, I think he's literally fourth. He's not a bad pitcher. He was once a starter that kind of got like he was a reliever, then they tried to turn him starter, then they're moving back to relief pitching. So he's kind of mixed matched all the way around through. He's just kind of steady. And I feel like if they miss out on Robertson, if they miss out on Chafin, if they miss out on Bard, but they still feel like they need to add an arm, they could go after Michael Fulmer, he's just steady. It allows them to shift Peralta down into like this 8th inning, let Fulmer pitch the 6th or the 7th. And you can always mix and match him around. He's not stellar, but he's not horrible.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up, John?
Yeah, actually, I still think there's a good possibility to take the field when it comes to relievers. I think Cashman does an amazing job of finding relievers either in his own within the Yankees organization or other teams and bringing them in. No one really knew much about them or even pitched that well, and the Yankees come in and fix them. So for all the relievers we just mentioned, like there's still a really good chance that the Yankees don't go after any of them and they take someone from the field who comes in and pitches really well.
Yeah, there is some options. I do want to give a shout out to how I always forget his first name, Man Supply from the Diamondbacks. They'll probably trade him. I know the Yankees haven't been in conversations with the Diamondbacks around him. There hasn't been any rumors around him to the Yankees, but I figure it's another name to bring up into the reliever conversation. Barnes, any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Hey, Yankees, if you're watching this, what you should be, make sure you go out and go get a pitcher. Don't miss out on Castillo. But if you do, let's get some arms. Let's really get some arms to help us push us over the hump.
Yeah, and last point I want to bring up is if you get a starter and Severino doesn't have a spot in the rotation in postseason, you can throw him in the bullpen, and you have that option for the postseason. So that's going to wrap this thing up. Thanks for checking out, obviously, Bleacher Brawls. Make sure to check out all the Bleacher Brawls links in the description, the website, the podcast, the Instagram, the Twitter, plus all the crew's Twitters. Make sure to check all that out. We do a lot of Twitter spaces on Twitter, so be tuned in for that. All that stuff, all that good stuff. If you want to ask us questions live, that's the place to do it. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell while you're down there, so you know when we're posting. We're posting daily videos Monday through Friday. At the time of this recording, the Orioles and Red Sox have the same record, and the Red Sox are going to lose tonight. So I'm super happy about that. Have fun with your division lead, Yankees fans. Enjoy it, because I hope it doesn't stay for next year. Because you can check out my Twitter and see the prediction I made for 2023. That's going to wrap it up. For John and Barnes, I'm Derek, a depressed Red Sox fan with some happy Yankees fans. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.